Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to our Eagle Lead presentation focusing on the College of Arts, Social Sciences, and Humanities. Eagle Lead stands for Leadership, Engagement, and Development and is a speaker series debuting on campus this semester. Throughout Eagle Lead, each college at the university will have 3 feature weeks including an introduction, which is what we're doing tonight, a leadership topic, and speaker from the community. To start CASSH's presentations with Eagle Lead, we have Professors Nick Bakken and Lisa Kruse and student Gabby Hill-Sanow. And without further ado, here are your speakers for the night.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us. So Dr. Kruse and I and Gabby are just going to give a brief overview of the College of Liberal Arts, College of Arts, Social Sciences, and Humanities, and talk about how the skills that you learn within the college are really transferable outside of UWL once you enter the workforce. So the College of Arts, Social Sciences, and Humanities has departments and programs in the humanities, social sciences, arts, communication, and interdisciplinary studies. The college is home to 16 different departments, which include 41 undergraduate majors, 47 minors, and 4 graduate programs. Dr. Kruse and I are from the Department of Sociology and Criminal Justice. And as an alumnus of UWL myself, who graduated in 2004, with a degree in sociology and criminal justice, I can really speak to the rigor of the academic programs in our college and the quality of skills that I left campus with. So students who major in programs within our college often demonstrate really strong skills, like I said, that are transferable to any job field. In one instance, our students are very strong at communication and writing. Liberal arts majors write a lot of essays, which helps them learn how to form evidence-based arguments. They communicate clearly to their audience. They can write persuasively. And with the research papers a lot of our students write in our classes, students have to thoroughly evaluate information. They have to present it logically. They have to be concise in their writing. And our students are also provided opportunities to speak in both small and large groups to learn how to become an effective presenter. In addition, our students are generally very strong in terms of research. Research and writing really go hand in hand, that the research that students conducted then needs to be written up in a way that's clearly disseminable or disseminated to other audiences. So students who study liberal arts programs learn to identify relevant details. They learn to analyze sources of information and draw useful findings from their research. And they also have to be able to present logical and coherent conclusions working with a wide variety of different types of data. Liberal studies classes also promote a lot of creativity for students, teaching students to think in complex and nuanced ways, and allow students to set aside assumptions that they may have coming into their classes. And really being able to propose innovative solutions or come up with new ways for communicating ideas can help professionals in all types of fields, including business and STEM types of jobs, which really heavily emphasize creative problem solving. But one of the real hallmarks of our college and the courses that we teach is that we're really known for our focus on building critical thinking skills. The coursework that our students do asks them to analyze numerous sources, synthesize material, and really construct a persuasive argument that trains them to approach information with a really critical eye. And students also learn to identify bias and use logical reasoning. And finally, CASH students develop the ability to really collaborate with and appreciate a really wide range of ideas and people. Through our courses and programs, students are able to understand and work with diverse populations. Our programs prepare students for an increasingly diverse and multicultural society. And our courses help teach students things like empathy, cultural awareness, and cultural competence. So really in all, liberal studies education helps build strong communication skills in both writing and speaking. Students learn to make persuasive arguments backed by evidence. They're able to communicate their ideas to diverse groups of people. And our degrees also encourage creativity. They foster universally important skills such as research, analytical reasoning, and creative problem solving. So finally, on my end, in addition to the types of skills that our majors and minors provide within our college, a number of our students are also involved in opportunities that have been proven to be beneficial for student engagement and successful learning. So these include things like internships, where many of our students in our college will get internships with organizations or businesses in the community, and they get some applied experience working with people in their chosen field, and also being able to network and make those relationships that are important for once they graduate from UWL. Most of our programs have capstone courses and projects, which for most of the core classes within our programs, for instance, sociology has a capstone research course where students have to complete this really comprehensive research project, which is really a culmination of everything they've learned throughout the program over their 4+ years. So our other students are involved in undergraduate research, where they may work individually with a faculty member as a project mentor and write an undergraduate research grant to really get that one-on-one kind of tutelage that they might not get otherwise. Many of our courses are writing intensive, which again helps them not only be able to become good writers, but to be able to synthesize information, be efficient and concise with their writing, and to be able to communicate both orally and in writing whatever it is that they're interested in. And a number of our students also participate in study abroad programs, which really helps to increase their global and cultural diversity. So really in all, students in our college have experience in, and they participate in a lot of different areas that I just mentioned, making them exceptionally well-rounded, which segues into what they can do with these skills once they leave UWL.
Yeah, so importantly, right, we all want to get jobs when we're done with our degrees, and there is a misconception that liberal studies degrees are not as useful, not as employable, and that's absolutely false. There's a lot of data to suggest that our students are very employable, have strong employment records. And one of the reasons is because the general skills that the liberal studies teach students are considered to be timeless skills. They're also referred to as the human touch. And what that means is that while automation will come in and replace a lot of technical skills, technical job skills, automation cannot replace the human quality of work. So the critical thinking, the creative problem solving, collaboration, written oral communication. And so those persist. And it's shown, these qualities are shown in how important those skills are to employers. So in a study by the National Center for Higher Education Management Systems and the AACU, a survey of employers found that 4 out of 5 employers agree that all students should acquire a broad liberal studies knowledge base, and 93% of employers agree that a candidate's demonstrated capacity to think critically, solve problems creatively, collaborate and communicate are more important than the actual degree. So it's more about the skills. The reason is because these general skills from the liberal studies are a lot harder to train on the job. These elements of critical thinking and written and oral communication and so on are cultivated over time and through several courses. And so these are more coveted in incoming candidates. We see that there are a lot of jobs that our students are getting. And so one of the problems that students sometimes have is thinking about how these skills are applicable to jobs. You have to be a little more flexible, a little more creative in thinking about how these skills can work towards career paths. But if you can get comfortable in that, and you can get comfortable in selling those skills that you have gotten from a liberal studies degree, there's a wide variety, a very broad application that you can do with these skills. So there's way too many jobs to list, but I've put down on this slide several of the common jobs that students in liberal studies get. And within these jobs, there is a lot of diversity. So for example, a lot of students who are in the field of sociology, who are in our department, end up becoming social workers, because social workers is a very broad career path that is really about working with people on certain issues or problems that they have. And so Dr. Bakken and I downtown will work with social workers who run the drug treatment court, who run System of Care, which is a diversion program for youth. So instead of arresting them or ticketing them with a school resource officer, they go to a social worker who helps them to assess their needs to address the problem. There are neighborhood social workers, so kind of like neighborhood resource officers or community policing, social workers who are established in communities, who walk around, get to know community members and what issues are plaguing their neighborhoods. Social workers can also be in the health setting, doing triage in the emergency room for mental health issues. There are lots of social workers who do, with an advanced degree, counseling, mental health and or substance use disorder counseling. So there's a lot of variety there. We also find in the data that salaries for those who have degrees in liberal studies are very comparable in both starting out and at peak earning age across the disciplines. So compared to the professional, pre-professional and STEM fields, liberal studies students are highly employable and making comparable amounts of money. Sometimes I have students, UWL tends to be a big school that, or a school that attracts a lot of students who are looking to go into the health field, a lot of pre-track, pre-health career trajectories. And I will get students in my intro classes who say, for a variety of reasons, that this pathway is not working out for them. But they still want to be a part of the health setting, and liberal studies is a really great fit for that. Increasingly, it's understood that issues of health equity are broader than physical and even psychological health, that we have to look at social determinants, environmental factors. And these are a lot of the things that are studied in the liberal studies field. So you can be a data analyst for the health setting, a client specialist in the health setting. You can do a lot of public health work, such as running domestic violence shelters, victim services, and so on. So there's a lot of overlap that can happen there. If you're watching this and you're thinking that you would like to stay in the health setting, but you're not sure about your degree path. Dr. Bakken and I cannot represent the whole college and all of the disciplines, as we are only in one department. So we thought it would be best if we concluded our portion by talking about how we, a little bit more about how we implement learning these broad skills, both in the classroom, but also in the research that we do and the student experiences that we provide for our students. So Dr. Bakken and I are both criminologists, which is a subfield of sociology, where we focus specifically on crime and deviance in the criminal justice system. But we are subsumed under the discipline of sociology, which is the study of society. So we look at patterns in society, how people are behaving, what their experiences are, and we connect them to the larger social structure. So understanding that individuals are not free and autonomous beings who make their own decisions, but are largely influenced by the culture that they exist within. And so this is called the sociological imagination, where we look at personal experiences and see how the society that we live in has shaped those experiences. And this requires an incredible amount of critical thinking to get an instance of a personal problem and thinking about how that's connected to the way society has been created. So one of the things that Dr. Bakken and I do in the county with practitioners in the criminal justice system is, well, actually right now we are looking at creating a program that will help with successful reentry from jail. So a pattern in society that is well established is that many folks have trouble reentering their communities from a period of incarceration, whether that be in the jail or prison. And so we can take this pattern that we see and we can start thinking critically about how the societal structure, the institutions, how these are influencing the impact of reentry or preventing folks from successfully reentering. And so taking that knowledge, then we sit down and work with practitioners to say, we are noticing that barriers to housing is preventing reentry, successful reentry, barriers to gainful employment or advanced degrees, lacking access to treatment or mental health counseling is an issue. And so being able to connect that there are barriers to these things in their community, we can develop a program that will try to bridge those gaps and help folks who are coming out of the local jail to reenter more successfully, because they will be able to get these things that we are seeing in the studies that we do are important for reentry. Thinking about the sociological imagination also enhances and increases cultural competency, which is this global diverse perspectives. It involves and it requires to think about inequities in society and different experiences based on what we call social location or a person's identity. And so we can't think about reentry from jail without thinking about issues of race, racial discrimination and bias in the criminal justice system, in employment, right, in housing, class. Many of the folks who are in the jail are considered indigent, which means they have no income. And so this provides students, as we talk about these things in class, the ability to connect these inequities, to understand better how to deal and work effectively with diverse populations. Both Dr. Bakken and I are methods and people, so we teach the methods courses, is what I'm trying to say, in our department. And so we bring a lot of what we do in the county into the classroom, and we require our students to get creative. So we pose a question of them and say, here is data, how can you use this data? How can you collect data, analyze data, present it in oral or written form to solve this problem, to answer this question? And so some of that happens within the classroom, but then also we take on research assistants. And so I will turn it over to Nick in just a minute to talk about his experiences with research assistants. For me, I've had research assistants that have done interviews with participants, qualitative interviews, which is really good for oral communication skill building. They've done transcriptions of interviews. They've helped with coding qualitative interviews. This is the data analysis piece of it. I've also had students work with me on quantitative data analysis, in which they, from nearly start to finish, analyze data, write up the results, and present it to county practitioners. So in doing all this work, they are further developing these skills, but also then going down into the community and engaging with practitioners locally, which has helped a lot of our students to get jobs in fields that they're interested in and getting to know these individuals. So I'll turn it over.
Yeah, thanks. So building off of what Dr. Kruse talked about, which is Fresh Start, the reentry program, we very often, whenever possible, bring students into our research in order to give them those extra experiences. So, we can talk about these things in the classroom, they can work on papers or projects related to it, but what really helps a lot of students is when they're motivated, is we bring them in through internships or research assistantships. So for instance, on our reentry project, We had students that came in and worked at Justice Support Services, which is located right outside of the La Crosse County Jail. And basically the students did interviews with men and women who were incarcerated in jail. They worked on data entry. They helped the project investigator through that office write technical reports to the funding agencies. They were really the bridge between Dr. Kruse and I and the practitioners working in the county. So not only did they get that actual applied experience doing something they were really interested in, but those experiences also led many of these students to do similar types of projects for their senior capstone courses. So they would get data on prisoner or men and women who are re-entering society from prison, and they would do these large-scale analyses and then write up their paper and present them. We had students that used these as a springboard for undergraduate research projects. So really, it's taking what students are learning in the classroom and then applying it in a real and applied sense. And many of these students have gotten a lot of jobs when they've graduated from UW because they've had excellent references from these practitioners that they're working with in the community, as well as from professors like Dr. Kruse and myself. So, that's the type of community engagement that a lot of our students have access to across the entire college. And professors work really hard to make sure that students are getting involved in as many different, what we call high impact practices as possible. So with that, I think it would be a good segue for Gabby to talk about her experiences as a student at UWL.
Okay, just gonna share my screen. Okay, so my name is Gabby Hill-Sanow. A little bit about me. I'm a senior this year. I'll graduate in May with a bachelor's in science in sociology, a minor in criminal justice, and a minor in legal studies. My freshman year, fun fact, I lived in Coat Hall and I worked at the rec center as a referee. And I switched my major 2 or 3 different times before I chose sociology. So as a student, how I got involved kind of coming into UWL in the years after, I played a array of intramural sports. I did bags, volleyball, soccer, and then I also worked at the rec as a referee, which helped me to meet a lot of people and kind of get to know the campus a little better. And I also joined a few different clubs. I remember I think pre-dental at one point. I joined pre-dental club, and now I'm pre-law, so I joined the pre-law club. So you can join those specifically pertaining to your subject interests. And then in order to do that for intramural sports, you can visit recsports.uwlacrosse or uwlax.edu and then create an account through IM Leagues, and you can actually find teams that need people, and you can just stop by the rec if they need job openings, probably ask about that. To find clubs, you can always ask professors. A lot of professors are involved in clubs. Fellow classmates you can ask, or you can visit the website as well and then search student organizations. There's a huge list of clubs on there. I just recently looked it up just to make sure my credentials were correct, and there's a huge, bigger than I thought there was here, honestly. So, and then for a job, you can either do work study, or you could work obviously to help pay for rent and whatever else you have going on while you're attending college. You just go to the website, search student employees, and this gives you the opportunity to find employment on campus in many different areas. That includes the health center, the rec center, the student union, the bookstore. There's a lot to do here for jobs, and I know me among many of my friends have actually worked on campus, and we've all really loved it. And some resources to take advantage of. The tutoring center I visited many times in my past, specifically with math, statistics, which actually helped a lot. It's nice too, because if you're studying in the library, You just go upstairs. If you're already upstairs, it's right across the hall, and usually they have someone there all the time, and it's a student, so they're very personable and you feel comfortable talking to them. They probably had the same issues you have with whatever subject you need tutoring on. What I recently found out, which I wish I would have known while attending UWL up until my senior year, the library has items you can actually check out, which was mind-blowing to me. They have chargers, scissors, whiteboards, rulers, pens, pencils, notebooks, everything you can think of. So if you're ever there and you need something extra, you forgot something at home, you can always ask and they might have it for you. UWL offers scholarships and grants, which you can find on the website as well. I've applied to a few of those. I've been awarded some grants that were very helpful in the past. The Career Center is very helpful with finding jobs and internships. I actually found my internship through the Career Center. I interned at the La Crosse County Public Defender's Office, which was extremely rewarding internship. It's actually helped me a lot get interviews for jobs this semester following graduation. It's a really good experience builder, I would say, and they're very helpful. They kind of just walk you through everything. And mine was unpaid, but it did count for credits, which was obviously helpful with graduating. Outdoor connections, you can rent skates, rollerblades, you can go on retreats, hikes. I think they are also involved with the ski hill, Mount La Crosse. And then I definitely took full advantage of professors' office hours. Dr. Bakken knows that. I've been in there a million times. They're always very helpful. I think professors really like when you come because it shows initiative as well. And I kind of just like over asked questions at that point, but they're always there, and it's kind of like your own personal expert to go to if you ever have a question on a project or a paper, or anything you want them to kind of, have a little upper hand. Like if you don't know how your papers go, and you can go in and say, oh, how's it looking? And then they can let you know if you need to add or subtract, but that's only my personal experience. And then attending UWL as a sociology major with a minor in criminal justice and legal studies. I chose sociology because I took Soc 101 as a gen ed class just to fulfill a requirement, and I actually really fell in love with the subject. It was tougher than I expected, but I liked the way it challenged me. It challenged me in a very positive way. I've always been very passionate about criminal, socioeconomic, racial, environmental, and social justice, and furthering my education in sociology definitely just had that passion grow and grow and grow. It's not just a subject that will help you with your future career and getting a job, but also it's applicable in everyday life situations. Like many times I find myself sitting there in social situations or when I'm with my family, like, this is why they're doing what they're doing. So it's very interesting. It keeps your life interesting, even if people might think you're bored. You're definitely not, with your sociological imagination brewing deep inside. And then nothing against psychology. It's a great subject. I actually thought about going into psychology, but I just wasn't satisfied with the human function fact of it. It was kind of more of like the social norm that I wanted to go into. So that's also why I chose it. And then overall, you can honestly be nothing but yourself with this subject. There's really no right or wrong answer. You can always just dive deeper. There's no dead end either, which I've experienced. It's been very rewarding. And then what to expect if you do choose sociology or criminal justice, or if you go down any path that I'm kind of talking about. Expect to be challenged for sure. It's not an easy subject, but in a good way. Like I said previously, it's a positive challenge. And you won't be just challenged by your professors. There's been many times that I'm in discussions and they kind of get, not argumentative, but heated, because everyone has different levels of education and knowledge on certain subjects. And you can kind of just like educate each other in discussions. So classmates are really up to jump to challenge each other, which I've really loved majoring in sociology. And then every professor expects you to voice your opinion and show off your knowledge of how social world works. Specifically, I took Dr. Gongware, and he's pretty intense in a good way. But he was always, eyeing us down in class and making sure that we would speak up, which makes you do your homework and learn more. And it's just like an endless cycle. And then expect the highest level of acceptance and help that a professor could offer. I've had a great experience with all my sociology professors. There's not any that I would ever have a bad thing to say. They're all very open-armed and accepting and willing to help, and always quick to answer you as well if you ever have questions through email or Canvas or even in person. And then, as Dr. Bakken and Dr. Kruse said in their presentation, expect a lot of research and research assignments. The capstone is tough, but very rewarding and satisfying. I did quantitative, which is more statistics data-based. And I was kind of hesitant at first because I'm not the best with numbers, but it's honestly a lot more than that. And numbers are just a small part of it. It really opens up your mind to a lot of different subjects. I did mine on what demographics affect people's opinions on COVID, attitudes on COVID-19 and the whole pandemic. And I learned a lot that I definitely wouldn't have learned before. So I even used some of parts of my capstone research final paper as a writing sample for applying for jobs. So that was really nice. And I can put that on my resume and talk about that in interviews and how I have that experience with SPSS and that database. And then, like I said before, group discussions are definitely essential with this major in this school. It's all about talking things out, and there's no right or wrong answer. In many class discussions with specifically Ganga, where he would accept what you're saying and also build off of what you're kind of expressing in the class, even if it's technically the wrong answer to the question he was asking. He loves to hear a point, and that's how every professor is that I've attended their class. They're all kind of like that. And especially with criminal justice classes, I've always been super passionate about criminal justice, and that's kind of the field I'm going into with my social degree. So I really enjoy having discussions about that stuff. And I think that as a student, if you do decide to go into sociology or just obviously like the School of Sociology here at UWL, it's it's a place for passion, and it's a place for students to grow that passion and find careers within it and kind of share that passion with obviously professors and other students, and it just creates a community within our already big, nice, friendly community at UWL. So this was just for questions, but obviously there's none to ask now. So thank you for watching,